when texturing a head, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about setting it up. If you want to, you could use procedural textures, which are all seamless, and you could go about texturing that way. But if you want to use image maps, you really probably will find yourself using a UV map because a head is organic and it's seamless, okay? And you don't really want to have to go through the hassle of going, okay, this is going to be mapped in the Z, this is going to be mapped in the X, in the Z, and then painting your maps to be seamless. It'd be easier if we could do one image map for the entire head so that we could make sure that it's seamless. So what I thought we could do is take a look at a quick way to get a jump start on UV mapping a head like this. And let's go ahead and just dive right in. So I'm going to, let's take a look if we just UV map it as is right here. I'm going to change this view to UV, okay, so we can see the UV map that we're going to create. I'm going to come over to T for UV texture and or textured UV, and then I'm going to go new. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call this head 001 because we're going to make another one. Okay, and for map type, let's choose cylindrical. For subpatch interpolation, I'm going to choose subpatch. We could keep it linear, but because it's a subpatch object, I'm going to go ahead and have my UV be subpatched that way. We don't run into the problems where we try and, like, say, put an eyebrow on and it starts getting crooked because we're trying to use a linear UV map on a subpatch object. Okay, so for the axis, I'm going to choose Y because I want to go around the head. So the axis is going to run right through the head. And we'll go ahead and use the just automatic for the settings. We don't need to set manual settings. And let's go ahead and create. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that, yeah, we've got it all laid out flat. We can go in and start painting our texture. I accidentally grabbed the eyes, which I won't do in the next map. We would want to just surface those different. But one thing that I'm seeing is I kind of set myself up for difficulty in painting my map or creating my map because the seam is right here on the side of the head, which we'll probably see in a three-quarter view or a side view during our animation, whereas we might not see the back of the head as much, especially if we're going to put hair and things like that on. So it would be much better if we could put our seam right down the center in the back. And there's an easy way to do this, and I thought we could go ahead and take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this. We can have as many UV maps as we want. I'm going to leave this, and then that way we can compare. So I'm going to just leave this up, and then I'm going to take this head and I'm going to cut it and paste it into layer 2, separating it from the eyes. We don't need the eyes in this in the UV map. So I'm going to have this here, and then in order to get this to work with ease, I mean, I could set up a morph, I could do a couple things. I'm just going to come over in this top window, and I'm going to rotate the head around and center it. So now it's facing the positive X. I'm going to come over to T, new, and we're going to call this head 002. We'll do a cylindrical map with the subpatch interpolation, set the subpatch down the Y, and I'm going to click create. And now our seam is on the back of the head, which is much nicer to work with. If we go to this one, well, again, our seam's in a place that you could make it work. I think it's a lot of work. Whereas this is much easier. Now we're not quite done creating finishing the UV map. We need to do some adjustments, and so you're going to want to spend the time editing the, I'm going to grab these points which are overlapping, and I'm going to edit that. You're going to want to go in and adjust around the ears depending on how much detail you want. You could probably get away with what's there, but I'm not a big fan of having overlapping geometry in my UV map. So you're going to want to go in and make some adjustments. But for a quick start on UV mapping ahead, this little rotate trick really does help get you there pretty fast. And now here's the beauty. UV map, doesn't matter what you do with the object, the UV map is going to stay the same. So once you've done this, all you have to do is come over here and hit R for rotate. I'm going to go ahead and center it again, and I'm back to where I started before I did my rotate and set up my UV map. So this is just a real quick look at laying out a UV map for a face, for a head, where you want to control where the seam is. Okay, so you can rotate it. If you wanted the seam somewhere else, you just rotate the head slightly different. But I think this is a good place for the seam. So just always rotate the head facing down the positive X when you're laying out your UV map. And then you can always have it facing, and actually if I was going to set this up for rigging, I would rotate it facing the positive Z. But see, it's not affecting my UV maps. That's just the placement on the UV grid. So it doesn't really matter what I do in the other viewports. So again, quick look at setting up starting a UV map for a head.